What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here, and welcome to our daily show where we discuss the fourth stimulus check update, the two new upcoming packages. Part one, the physical infrastructure package, which is $1.2 trillion, and they're in the voting process. Remember, there's several different votes in this voting process. They have already passed 2 votes during this voting process, and major news on what is going on with that. Remember, they have to pass part 1 and part 2. Part 2 is the next stimulus package, which is $3.5 trillion, also known as the American Families Plan, also known as the reconciliation plan, the reconciliation process, also known as the anti-poverty plan and anti-poverty stimulus package. The largest stimulus package yet to date, $3.5 trillion, the Democrats have announced it as. Senator Bernie Sanders is also known as the leader or the deal maker of this next stimulus package. The third stimulus check package was only $1.9 trillion, and yet that had the largest stimulus checks yet to date, $1,400 for adults, $1,400 for children, and $1,400 for adult dependents and college students that didn't even receive stimulus checks last time around. Remember, the Democrats, I also should mention, in addition to the $3,000 to $3,600 per year child tax credit checks that are going out right now, those are only going to go out for 1 year. Those end at the end of this year, along with the first half of the money that's going to go out on your tax returns. Those will not go out after this year unless they add more in this next stimulus package. That is one of the things that they want to add in more child tax credits. They also want to add in more adult tax credits. We also think that could possibly be something along the lines of what they're sending out to children, $3,000 to $3,600 per year. Could that be for adults as well in this next package? The Democrats have said there will be adult tax credits in this next stimulus package. And there's a very real possibility of 4 stimulus checks as well, at the bare minimum, a single stimulus check, because honestly, the pandemic is getting worse. Virus cases are just out of control right now, out of control. We had 122,000 new cases on Friday. Yeah, the Delta variant is just, Florida had an all-time high of new cases. All-time high. More cases than they've ever had because of this Delta variant. So yeah, and remember, the stimulus is getting more. This next stimulus package is going to be the largest package ever. So I get that the naysayers say, oh, there's not going to be any more stimulus. I don't know what they're thinking. This next stimulus package is the largest yet to date, $3.5 trillion. Now, it could be negotiated down a little bit with Senator Joe Manchin and Senator Kirsten Sinema. Dun, dun, dun. I know that's kind of their default theme song now. Isn't it sad that they have a default theme song? That the Democrats themselves are calling this an anti-poverty plan. There's no better way to bring people out of poverty than to send them direct stimulus checks, direct child tax credit checks. Remember, the child tax credit checks are nothing more than just sending out checks directly to the people. That's exactly what child tax credits are. They're just sending checks out to people with children. And adult tax credits can literally be the exact same things. In addition to straight up stimulus checks. Remember, the third stimulus check package had $1,400 stimulus checks for adults, $1,400 stimulus checks for children, and $1,400 stimulus checks for college students and dependents, adult dependents, in addition to the $3,000 to $3,600 child tax credits. They had the $1,400 stimulus checks and the $3,000 to $3,600 child tax credits. They had both of those in there, guys, both of them. And Senator Bernie Sanders is the guy in charge of, largely, this next $3.5 trillion stimulus package. And everybody knows that he's basically the guy that demanded stimulus checks be included in the second stimulus check package. He is the Senate budget chairman, the person in charge of the reconciliation process, which is how the Democrats are going to pass this next stimulus package which means they can pass it without a single Republican vote. He is one of the 28 Democrats in the Senate, which is over half of the 50 Democrats in the Senate, along with Senator Elizabeth Warren and Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, that are actually in favor of monthly recurring stimulus checks to be included in this next infrastructure package. Again, that'll probably come in part two, the social infrastructure package, the human infrastructure package, aka the next stimulus package. They are the people in favor of the $2,000 monthly stimulus checks, the bill that is actually co-written by Senator Ed Markey and Senator Elizabeth Warren. That is a bill that was previously introduced for $2,000 monthly stimulus checks that would go until the pandemic is declared over. A month or two ago, we thought that the pandemic might be declared over sometime close. But now with COVID cases out of control, that might not be anytime soon. However, we have some really good news today regarding part one and part two of these next two packages. Remember, they have to pass part one and then part two in the Senate. And well, here's Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer on the Senate floor. Listen to this.
Mr. President.
Majority Leader.
Well, I thank my colleagues for their fine speeches and very much appreciate them. Now, the bipartisan group of senators has finished writing the text of the infrastructure bill. And in a moment, I'll take the procedural steps to make their legislative language the base of the bill here on the floor. I want to congratulate the members of the bipartisan group for their efforts. We haven't done a large bipartisan bill of this nature in a long time. I want to especially thank the staffs who burned the midnight oil many a night for their diligence, their hard work, their intelligence, and their skill. Thank you, staff, listening, and a few in the room here tonight. These days, it isn't easy to do major bills in the Senate, especially bipartisan ones. So I've tried to prod the negotiators along when they've needed it and given them the space when they've asked for it. In the end, the bipartisan group of senators have produced a bill that will dedicate substantial resources to repair, maintain, and upgrade our nation's physical infrastructure. It's been decades since Congress passed such a significant standalone investment, and I salute the hard work that was done here by everybody. In order for our workers, our businesses, our economy to succeed in the 21st century, we cannot have infrastructure that's stuck in the last century. The bipartisan infrastructure bill is designed to bring our infrastructure up to date for a new century, and that is a significant achievement. Now, for the future. For the information of senators, here's how we plan to move forward. I will offer the text of the bipartisan infrastructure bill as a substitute amendment, as I promised, making it the base of the bill. Then the Senate will work to consider additional amendments to the bipartisan framework. Given how bipartisan the bill is and how much work has already been put in to get the details right, I believe the Senate can quickly process relevant amendments and pass this bill in a matter of days. Then I will move the Senate along the second track for our infrastructure effort and take up the budget resolution. A bipartisan infrastructure bill is definitely necessary, but to many of us, it is not sufficient. That's why soon after this bill passes the Senate, Democrats will press forward with a budget resolution to allow the Senate to make further historic, vitally important investments in American jobs, American families, and efforts to reverse climate change.
Okay, so finally, we have the Senate has introduced the bipartisan infrastructure bill. We finally, even though there are two yes votes into the process of passing Part 1 physical infrastructure, they have finally introduced the bill. Believe it or not, this is how the Senate and the House work. And I know we've been learning a lot together throughout these months and even almost years now together. They actually passed two votes on the infrastructure package without releasing the physical bill. Now, they knew they had a general idea of what's in the bill, But yeah, they actually passed the first two stages of the bill, the basically motions to proceed on this bill. And they have now, and again, they had a base idea of what's in the bill. Okay, it's not like they have no idea. They call these shell bills when they vote to proceed. And this, I'm kind of explaining this to you guys so you guys know how our government works. And yeah, they don't just go in there and just do one vote and pass. Now, they do sometimes do that on other types of bills, but on mass, huge motion bills like this, that is not how they work. They go through vote-a-rama processes. They go through amendment processes, which is what they're going to be going through next. Yeah, this is how our government works. They have checks and balances processes. And you might be thinking, why does this stuff take so long? But this is how our country was founded, right? Okay, and then it's going to go to the House, okay? But we're very, very deep into this process now. In fact, if you want to check out the bill, the bipartisan physical infrastructure bill, I recommend you do it because here it is. You can check it out for some very light, very light reading, some bedtime reading after this. Here is the the bill. Again, very light reading. You could read it in a few minutes. It's only 2,702 pages. Yeah, so like I said, some very, very light reading, 2,702 pages. Yeah. So this could be a nice bedtime story for you if you want to read it tonight as a nice lullaby to lull you to sleep tonight. 2,702 pages. So if you ever wonder why these bills take a lot of time to yeah, look at this here. You could just see this one thing. 50, how much money even is that there? That's $57 billion for fiscal year 2022, $58 billion for fiscal year 2023, $60 billion for 2024, $61 billion for 2025, $62 billion for 2026. And that's just this one particular page that I happened to scroll by. So yeah, if you ever wonder why these things take some time, is that not only do they have to unveil the bill, but they have to agree on everything in the bill, okay? And also they have to get enough votes from the Republicans and the Democrats, okay? The last time they voted, the second time, the first time they had 17 Republicans vote yes. The second time they have 16 Republicans vote yes. And all along this time, they have former President Donald Trump, what a lot of Republicans consider the face of the Republican Party. A lot of Republicans think that he's going to be the next Republican candidate. He is screaming from the largest building he can to telling all the Republicans to vote no on this bill to kill the deal. So, which honestly could still happen. So we'll have to see when they get to the final vote. Just a very quick rundown of what is in this bill. Again, it's mostly physical infrastructure. They're going to pass this one, and then they're going to immediately, from what I understand, they're going to pass this one this week. It might be a few days, and then they're going to immediately go to then start passing the first parts of the next stimulus package, part two, basically what everybody is waiting for. This is a huge part of our nation's infrastructure, though. So by all means, I mean, this is something that our nation needs. In fact, if you, for the people that aren't worried about stimulus in this country, if there are people like that, I mean, roads, bridges, clean drinking water, people that, are, lead drinking water, I mean, everything that has to do with the rest of our country, this is a very big deal for our country. So by all means, I consider myself a patriot, and this is a very good thing for our country. $110 billion for roads, bridges, and infrastructure. Remember, there's both Republicans and Democrats that are supporting this bill. $40 billion for bridge repair, replacement, and rehabilitation. $17.5 billion for major projects that would be too large for complex traditional funding. 173,000 miles of nation's highways and major roads that are in poor condition. 45,000 bridges. $11 billion for transportation safety. $1 billion to reconnect communities. $39 billion to modernize public transit. $49 billion that was from an earlier bipartisan deal, and $85 billion to modernize transit systems. $66 billion in passenger and freight rail, including money for Amtrak. $65 billion to broadband upgrade, improving the nation's broadband infrastructure. It'll be interesting to see if part one or part two does include extra money for the people for that $50 off internet and cell phone, basically, I don't know, internet stimulus money. You guys know what we're talking about here, where the government pays $50 per month. I don't know, they had like $3 billion or something in there for people to see if at the end of the day we end up seeing some extra money in there for broadband internet. Upgrading airports, ports, and waterways. $17 billion in port infrastructure and $25 billion in airports upgrades. Electric vehicles, $7.5 billion for zero and low emission buses and ferries, and $7.5 billion towards building a nation of network and plug-in electric vehicle chargers. Invest $73 billion to rebuild the electric grid. When we think about Texas had that electrical outage over the winter, and we had the huge electrical outage. $55 billion to upgrade water infrastructure. We also had, we think about Detroit and their huge water issue that they had, and replacing the lead water pipes across the entire United States. And people literally, there's still lead water pipes across the entire United States in certain areas. $50 billion towards making the system more resilient through protecting it from droughts, floods, and cyber attacks. How Congress will pay for it. There's more than a dozen measures that would pay for the proposal. Repurposing unused COVID relief funds. The bill text lists savings from rescinding unobligated EIDL program and small businesses and nonprofit paycheck protection program and education stabilization funds and relief from airline workers, basically unused COVID funds. They used a portion of that, as we've talked about before. They'll also be using some unused COVID stimulus funds in part two as well. Another item is $53 billion from part of states opting out of unemployment benefits. Remember, though, a lot of those states are being sued right now, and the people will be getting those money back anyways. But nonetheless, they're probably going to pass this package anyways. So neither here nor there, really won't matter anyways, as we know that some states have kind of opted out of unemployment benefits, and they're going to use that money for physical infrastructure. So neither here nor there, doesn't really matter. It's kind of interesting, right? More savings would come from delaying a controversial Trump administration rule that would radically change how prescription drugs are priced and paid for in Medicare and Medicaid until 2026 at the earliest. They're talking about a rebate measure here that will go into effect in the future. They're saying that this particular rebate will not go into effect until 2023 is when it is expected to go into effect. That this will basically pay for $49 billion of the plan. Okay? I'll have to get more information on that. The infrastructure proposal also generates $56 billion on economic growth, resulting from a 33% return on long-term projects. They also expect to raise $28 billion by changing the tax reporting rules on cryptocurrency. Biden said in a statement that the bill won't raise taxes on people making less than $400,000 a year and does not include a gas tax, a gasoline tax increase, or a fee on electric vehicles. He initially called for raising taxes on corporations to fund the infrastructure investments, but that proposal did not make it into this package after strong opposition from the Republicans. So it doesn't really look like there's any or very many tax increases at first glance. I'll look more into it as I get more information. Bill was just released, okay? Remember, this is part one. They're going to be passing this here within the next few days, okay? Which is really good news because remember, the timeline on this is they have to pass part one, physical infrastructure. then they're going to pretty much, from what I understand, be immediately going into passing and voting on the first stages of part two, the next stimulus package. Remember, they go in stages of voting here. So remember, just so we're all clear here, because we're kind of all learning how I've been learning this for a while, but in case you're new to this or you need a quick reminder, they don't just vote once on these. Okay. There's several different votes here. They have the opening motion to proceed, but remember the next stimulus package, the reconciliation package, only only the Democrats are going to be passing this. So the way it's going to be 50 Democrats voting yes and 50 Republicans voting no. Okay, so only the Democrats are going to be passing the next stimulus package. So the Democrats only have to negotiate amongst their own party. So it's going to be like in the Senate, they're going to be basically all the Democrats negotiating with Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema, two Democratic senators. So and then they're going to have to pass them in the House. And remember, the House Democrats are already saying that they don't think there's enough stimulus in there for the people. Even though we don't have the bill yet, they're already saying that it should be more progressive. It should be more stimulus type items, more stimulus checks, more child tax credits, more adult tax credits, more stimulus, more. Remember, the Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema are kind of moderate. They're almost more Republican leaning. Okay, even though Joe Manchin is actually he hasn't been that moderate leaning this time around. Kirsten Sinema says she's not okay or not sure with the $3.5 trillion. She's going to probably want to come down a little bit. They may have to negotiate down a little bit with her. Although the Democrats did kind of pounce on her like a cat. Where's my cat at? They did kind of pounce on her when she said she's not sure about the 3.5 trillion. So it was kind of like 48 Democrats versus her. So remember, just because one Democrat says, they're not sure, does not mean the end of the world. I'll get like 100 comments when like Joe Manchin or Kirsten Sinema says, well, they're not sure about this. Everybody and instantly thinks doomsday. Okay, and that's all part of the negotiation process. So like imagine you're in a room with say everybody's not part of the negotiation process, but let's just say that you were Kirsten Sinema and you're in a room with 20 other Democrats and you had 20 Democrats all negotiating against you. You'd be in a very tough position to hold your ground, and throughout hours and hours of negotiations, you'd probably lose a lot of sticking points there. And remember that both Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema both voted yes on the third stimulus check package. And Kirsten Sinema and Joe Manchin already said that they will be voting yes for the initial votes to proceed on the third stimulus check package. So they're both okay with the initial votes to vote yes. They both have said that they're okay with actually voting yes on this package. So they're going to be passing the stimulus package in its entirety. They're just going to be negotiating on the details, okay? So it's not like this stimulus package is not going to pass. That is not the case at all. They're just going to be negotiating on what's in the package, the details, the top line number. So like instead of 3.5 trillion, it might come down to 3 trillion or 3.2 trillion. And they might be shifting things around in there. Remember, there's some climate change in there. There's going to be some infrastructure things in there. There's going to be all sorts of stimulus things in there. Stimulus checks probably. Child tax credit probably. Remember, those are only passed for this 1 year. Adult tax credits probably. They've already announced that. Medicare 2.0. Hearing, dental, vision coverage. Lower the Medicare eligibility age to age 60 for seniors. Possible Social Security raise additional for seniors. And whatever doesn't come in this package will probably be coming in the next package and the next package after that, because the Democrats basically have a whole nother year to continue to pass packages until the next midterm election, because the Democrats have a full 2 years to pass packages through the reconciliation process. They get more cards on October 1st, which is the start of the which is the start of the new fiscal year. October 1st is the start of the new fiscal year. So they get more reconciliation cards to pass more packages. This is not the last package. And I think we're all realizing the pandemic is not going away anytime soon. And the economic recovery in 2008 and 2009 took 4 to 5 years. So it's very likely that is what it's going to take at the minimum for this economic recovery, because we're dealing with probably a worse depression, and we're dealing with a virus. So the good news is they're going to be passing part one here very soon, within the next 48 to 60 hours here, depending on how long the amendment process takes. Then they're going to go immediately to start the initial voting process and the initial passing process on the next stimulus package. Okay, and we might be finding out what's in there. So yeah, make sure to stay tuned. Make sure to subscribe down below. Share these videos with your friends and family so that they probably don't even know that there's another stimulus package coming out, and that it's going to be larger than the last stimulus package, which had $1,400 checks for everybody and $3,000 to $3,600 yearly or monthly checks for child tax credits. And this package is going to have adult tax credits as well. So yeah, I'll keep you up to date with everything. You can click this top video here to watch my newest stimulus check video next. And this video teaches you how to start your own business selling products on Amazon FBA. Amazon has their own program where you can sell products on Amazon, and I teach people how to do that, and I have already had dozens of students replace their 9-to-5 income selling products on Amazon FBA. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks, guys, and I will see you in the next video.